Hey everyone, Jubitaz, and I'm back with another installment of the Why Do People Hate series, where I'll be tackling Old Man the Third. The third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, is actually one of the most polarizing characters of the anime, and the funny thing is, most of the hatred harbored against the third stems from details about the story that were only revealed about him after his death. Hiruzen wasn't necessarily a bad person, but his incompetence or negligence, as well as how he was a pushover and allowed bad actors like Danzo and Orochimaru to get away with all sorts of crimes, has led to the third becoming one of the most hated characters in Naruto. Now he did die rectifying his mistakes with Orochimaru, so I won't dwell on that, but the rest is fair game, honestly. I'm only gonna present you guys with 2 exhibits instead of 4, but I believe that these 2 will be more than enough to uncover why do so many fans hate Hiruzen Sarutobi. If this is your first rodeo, then be sure to subscribe, and other than that, let's jump straight to it. Exhibit A: Hiruzen's negligence of Naruto and the subsequent discrimination he'd face as a kid. Now this is one of the most popular reasons as to why people hate the third, and it's generated a lot of memes. Like seriously, a lot of fucking memes. A lot of people blame Hiruzen for Naruto's childhood or sad backstory, since, you know, he was the acting Hokage at the time. And it's even worse when you consider the anime scene where Kushina practically begged the third to take care of her son, almost like she foresaw the life he was destined to have. Now I know that a lot of people will say, it's just an anime scene, as if the Naruto anime is completely irrelevant if it's not manga canon. Even if we were to ignore what Kushina said as just filler, which I don't consider the anime extensions of canon scenes as filler, but whatever. If Kushina didn't tell Hiruzen verbatim to take care of Naruto, it's just logical for him to assume responsibility. Naruto's parents, one of which being the former Hokage, sacrificed themselves to save the village from the nine-tailed fox, and despite the fourth's wishes that Naruto would be revered as a hero, instead, Naruto was blamed for the fox's rampage, and he'd grow up facing discrimination and being alienated by the same villagers that he saved. Now it's not like the third Hokage incited the villagers to hate Naruto, but as the current Hokage, he had the moral responsibility of protecting the fourth Hokage's kin, especially given Minato's sacrifice. I'd imagine that if the Hokage were to address his people and discourage them from shunning the Jinchuriki, then Naruto wouldn't face as much discrimination as he did. Now you could say that there wasn't much that Hiruzen could do about it, since Jinchuriki faced discrimination in all of the other villages too. Well, here's another idea. After the news about Naruto being the Jinchuriki were leaked, Hiruzen could have attempted to do some damage control by revealing that Naruto was the famed Yellow Flash's son, the hero of the village. I know the excuse given for that is that Minato had a lot of enemies, and revealing that Naruto was his son could put a target on his back. But Naruto already had a target on his back. All Jinchuriki do. At least that way he could have saved face with the villagers, considering that the villagers idealized Minato. But no, that part had to remain a secret. And to make matters worse, Hiruzen didn't even tell Naruto who his parents were, or that he hosted the Nine-Tails. So Naruto had no idea why he was orphaned, who his parents were, and why he was shunned by the villagers. It's not to say that all the blame lies on the third Hokage's shoulders. Jiraiya and Kakashi should have revealed the information to Naruto, and they could have been more present in his childhood. But it's the Hokage's responsibility more than anyone else's, especially given the connection between him and Naruto's father. Yes, he had his busy Hokage's schedule, but the fourth Hokage's son being treated like a pariah should be a priority. In other words, he could have done better. Also, looking into Naruto's early life, where Hiruzen basically gives him a check every month and then just lets him be, I know that this is just filler, but if this is representative of how his childhood was as an orphan, then you can see why the third gets so much shit. Naruto desperately needed a parental figure or just someone to give him company. Though I suppose you could give Hiruzen some credit considering that he's the one that paired Naruto up with Iruka and explained to Iruka Naruto's situation so that Iruka was more sympathetic to the lad, and Iruka saved Naruto from the loneliness. So credits due where credits due, but still, the third Hokage could have definitely done more for Naruto. Exhibit B: Danzo. Yeah, that name alone should be enough. Probably the biggest reason as to why the third Hokage faces backlash is because of his shadow Hokage, or rival. One that was an egomaniac and whose scandals have created disasters and lifelong enemies for the Hidden Leaf. After Hiruzen was chosen over Danzo to become the next Hokage, Hiruzen felt sympathetic to his friend, and in order to appease him, he permitted Danzo to create the Root, or the Foundation, a ruthless subdivision of the Anbu under Danzo's exclusive control. Hiruzen's carte blanche to Danzo and his ignorance of the Foundation's questionable activities meant that Danzo could do basically whatever the fuck he wanted with little to no accountability. Danzo started acting like he's above the law, and he'd remain a problem well after the third Hokage's death. Hiruzen's fault was his naivete in believing that Danzo actually had the Leaf's best interest in mind. The Root would go on to unleash terror, with their nefarious meddling in foreign affairs and their ongoing missions of either abducting children or carrying out assassination attempts, one of which was carried out against Hiruzen himself in the anime. Yeah, the anime really brings out the worst of the third. After Hiruzen caught Danzo red-handed for treason, trying to kill the Hokage, he still let him walk, asking him in return to do everything he can to protect the Leaf. You can only imagine what Hiruzen's reaction would have been if he saw what Danzo did when Pain invaded the village. So much for always having the Leaf's best interest in mind. Danzo was a cancer, plain and simple. And considering that Hiruzen was the acting Hokage during his reign of terror, makes him partially responsible for it. It was the same problem that he'd had with Orochimaru. Hiruzen was far too soft, and he knew that was his weakness. Too lenient, too forgiving, so he thought that he'd balance out his gentler approach to conflict with Danzo's darker methods. Kinda like a good cop, bad cop routine. However, Danzo wasn't interested in any sort of alliance. He was still jealous of the third, so he tried to undermine him at every turn, and Danzo will damage the Leaf Village if doing so benefits him. He is someone that Hiruzen should have never trusted. Now, I won't lump the third into the same bracket as these two hags, since he at least recognized what a monster Danzo was, and he ordered him to disband the Root after finding out about the massacre in the anime. But Danzo should have been stripped off of any sort of title or power he had. And then there's some that implicate Hiruzen in the Uchiha massacre even further, that the third Hokage was stalling for negotiations and didn't really know what to do, and he actually needed Danzo to bail him out. Hiruzen also thanked Itachi for saving his ass, so it really does seem like Hiruzen wasn't prepared, and was kinda like a deer in the headlights when it came to dealing with the Uchiha coup d'etat. And a lot of fans believe that the fourth Hokage would have been more competent dealing with that situation. But to be fair, it's not an easy situation to handle, especially for someone like Hiruzen, with the hardliner geezers of the Leaf on one side, and the growingly dissatisfied and resentful Uchiha on the other. The clan had been harboring a grudge against the Leaf Village since the days of the second Hokage, and ever since the Ninetales incident, the tensions between the Leaf and the Uchiha was heightened. And for someone like Hiruzen, who was a people pleaser and a bit of a pushover, it was an unwinnable situation. Even when he was revived as a reanimated shinobi, Hiruzen blamed himself for the current state of affairs and says that he burdened Danzo with the darkness of the village. So regardless of how you look at it, whether you think that the third was just a naive fool that let Danzo do whatever the fuck he wanted, or whether you think he was more complicit than that and actually needed Danzo's help, he shares responsibility for Danzo's actions. And he's part of the reason why Danzo had the degree of control in the first place. It's also the Hokage's responsibility to prevent these bad actors from rising up in the first place. And the fact that he actually helped prep him up is even worse. Danzo's the reason for Sasuke and Nagato's grudge against the village, where the former swore to destroy the Leaf and the latter did just that. And in the Itachi novel, it was revealed that Danzo released the information that Naruto was the Jinchuriki, which led to the ostracization, all thanks to the third's naivete. The third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, is one of the most hated characters, and it's mostly due to Naruto's childhood and Danzo's influence. Hiruzen was a kind man, and I believe he did have a good heart, but he may have been too much of a pushover to become the Hokage, and a bit incompetent at his job sometimes. Anyways, I believe those are the most popular reasons as to why people hate Hiruzen. If you haven't already, make sure to check out the Why Do People Hate playlist, and I'll see you guys soon.